Welcome back, everyone. I'm Chris Aos.
And I'm Aos, and this is the Aos-to-Aos podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Aos-to-Aos podcast. We are here today talking about setting a proper foundation, and it's going to be going over things like business, workout, maybe if you want to do that, relationships and career goals. It's going to be basically for every part of your life. And setting a foundation, we can go over things that we talked about in the past, like a mindset, because it all goes into this. But we thought we'd take a step back and talk about a foundation and setting a proper foundation for whatever you're doing, like your life and things like that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think in a lot of ways you're going to find that some of our subjects overlap, and that, we might talk things to death and, in some certain situations. Setting the groundwork and setting a proper foundation is one of those areas that I don't think you can really talk too much about, because there's so many important factors and so many important, things that go into building a proper foundation that, it's a subject that's going to be talked about quite a bit.
For sure. Also, just like because our podcast is based around business and finance and success mostly, I mean, we can go off that a little bit. A lot of the times you realize that it's a bit more simple. Not necessarily what you do is simple, but like the things to talk about, like building a foundation, working hard, things like that. Like you can go into them in a lot of depth, but they're very simple in the topics, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we're going to overlap a lot, but hopefully each week we can bring a new, point of view to each and every podcast. So we'll start it off here with the business side of it. If people are going to start a business, you have to have a foundation, or else it's just basically chaos. Do you agree?
I agree. Yeah. One of the things that you kind of put in your notes is about systems.
Right.
I think that's a really good point to start on, because, we've talked a lot about goals and habits and things like that, but systems are something that I think a lot of time are misunderstood. So your goals are where you want to be.
Right.
Your habits are, things that you use to get there. But then, so when we're talking in a business perspective, your system is, how you get paid, how you get your product out to your customers, how your advertising works. Those are all your systems that you end up having to work out.
Yeah, for sure. In the book that I read just recently, it's called The E-Myth, and I mean, we talked about it off air. I'll probably send it to you and you can read it. It's a very good book, and I recommend anybody listening to go get it. In there, they talk about McDonald's. And, when you think about McDonald's, it's obviously a successful business, but you don't think of it as a business to, model yourself off of. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, they are probably the most successful, as they say in the book, the most successful small business in the world, because they started off as a very small business and just franchise and things like that. But the best thing about McDonald's is that it's basically, you could put anybody in the position. You could put somebody who has no experience, a lot of experience. You're going to get the same results because of the systems that they have in place. They have systems that run the business, and then people that run the systems, and it creates a very successful business. And that's what you should do with any business you're starting. So anyway, like an example is what they do is, let's say they have one person make the patties and then put it on the bun and then wrap it, and then someone make the fries, and then, get the drink and all those things. And they've set these systems on how to make the patties, like when to flip them, how to, align the pickles even, so that you just do it and it's almost mindless. And there's a system that's set in place so that people get the exact same experience every time. And if you actually look into why people buy things, it's not because of the thing itself, it's because of the experience. So if you have a very consistent experience for your customers, people are actually going to come back more and shop with you or buy from you or use you as a, if they're a business, be a client of yours or whatever it is. So for any kind of business, system is almost probably the most crucial thing. In the book, he said that it's really the reason most businesses don't succeed is because of the systems that they put in place. If you have chaos, it's not going to work. If you put a structured, proper system in, anybody can run it, then your business is going to be good.
Mm-hmm. And I like how you talked about McDonald's as being one of the largest small businesses out there. One of the unique things about McDonald's is their franchises. I mean, they are set up as all these small independent business owners own a restaurant under the McDonald's name.
Right.
So it's not like, this big behemoth of McDonald's is running all these restaurants and spread thin and having to have managers and, regional managers and general managers. They have owners that look after each individual place. And then those owners are able to go out because of the system that McDonald's has sold them, because that's really what McDonald's is the system in the supplier, right? But because of that system that McDonald's has sold them, they're able to go out and hire 14 and 15 and 16-year-olds to come in and operate their business seamlessly like every other McDonald's in the world. All they have to do is put one 18-year-old in charge, and they've got a going business. And that's like you said, you can go into a McDonald's anywhere in the world, and their French fries are the same in Tokyo as they're going to be in Canada or in the U.S. or in Ireland. You're always going to get the same French fries. Right. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons McDonald's has been so successful.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, that the it's people franchising the business. It's because, when people actually buy these businesses and they franchise, they don't care about French fries. They don't care about burgers. Like, they're not buying the burgers. They're buying the system because the system works, the McDonald's system. And, because they're probably the most successful. Like, if you think about, like, if I asked you, what's the most successful fast food chain, what would you say? McDonald's, because that's, and that's not even just here. That is, if I go to China, it's the same thing. It's because the system works, and the system has been in place and perfected over time. And so people aren't buying French fries. They're not buying a brand name. They're buying a system, and a system that really works. So what they said in the book is that when you want to start a system, even if you're not going to like expand, like if you just have one, like you have a bakery, imagine that you're doing like starting a system, and you're putting a system that in place that's going to be like McDonald's. So you're going to have thousands of stores worldwide. Like imagine putting in a system in place that would work for each of those stores, no matter how many stores you had. And you wouldn't really have to think about it. And that's how you're going to create a successful small business. And of course, if you're going to create a large business, you want to do that as well. So with the book, it's mostly for small businesses, but you want to look at it if you're starting a big business too, because having the same fundamentals as a big business or having a small business translate to a big business. You know what I mean? So
absolutely,
it's a great book to read if you want to get into it.
I look forward to reading it. Unfortunately, I've never heard of the book, and I mean, that's the nice thing about being able to network with other people, and especially with other people from different generations, like we've talked about before. You get different perspectives, and some of these books that may not have ever gotten on my radar, now you're going to send me this, so it's kind of interesting in that sense. Yeah,
so having different points of view too, because one thing might be important to another. Like you might be a more marketing mind, and I might be a more management mind, and so having the resources, you send me a book, I send you a book, it will make it better. So that's cool too. Maybe setting a foundation with your friends as well. Maybe getting out there. I think if you follow any motivational page on Instagram, you'll notice that people say if you hang out with people, you become like them. So maybe if I'm a managerial type mindset and I hang out with somebody who's more of a marketing type mindset, it'll make me better and things like that. So that's a good point too, setting a foundation with your friends and your relationships as well. That's great too.
And what you're saying about, some people are different types. Guy I work with actually kind of relates it to a baseball team. I mean, with a baseball team, you don't have a whole bunch of players that do everything.
Right.
You got, somebody that's really good at playing outfield, that's got a good arm for getting that ball, and you got a pitcher, you've got a catcher, you got your pinch hitter, you've got all these different people, but, not every one of them is good at everything. You got your superstar, that's good at everything, but, they're few and far between. But each one of those people on that team has, a purpose. And without that purpose, that whole team doesn't work. Each individual person plays to their strengths, and without them playing to their strengths, that whole team won't work. And the business is kind of the same way. there's a lot of people out there that try and do everything themselves.
Right.
And instead of, asking for help or putting people in place that, might have a better perspective, maybe someone that's got great, big sky ideas, someone who has all the ideas and comes up with the ideas and pushes and that kind of stuff and develops a product, but is horrible with finances,
Right.
is never going to be a successful business person. But, the smart people that are in that situation surround themselves with people who, are good in finances and are good with that kind of stuff. So
For sure. Yeah. I mean, he mentioned that in the book too. He used an analogy. I don't really want to spoil the book too much, but he used an analogy of a woman who owned a pie shop, and she basically wanted to micromanage everything. She wanted to do the finances, the, baking, the this, that, and the other thing. And she worked from like 4 a.m. to like 10 p.m. and didn't get anything done. Most people work way too hard on the wrong things. That's why they're not successful. People think also that you can't have things like a relationship and a business, a successful business that is. But really not the opposite is true, but you don't have to have that. If you work hard on the things that you're good at, but then you can have a foundation where, if it's a financial thing, it'll go to Harry. If it's a, this, that, and the other thing, it'll go to this person. You'll actually be working less and be more productive. And you can go and build relationships with the people you love too. So that's a great reason to start a foundation. And I like the analogy of the baseball team. And I guess you could morph it to any team, really, like a football team. Like imagine Tom Brady playing right tackle and Tom Brady's right tackle going back and playing quarterback. It wouldn't work. Each person is specifically, each position isn't interchangeable. You know what I mean? So the CEO, probably wouldn't be too good at, just being a midline assembler on the assembly line. You know what I mean? And the mid-level assembler on the assembly line wouldn't do too good at the CEO's job. So, you gotta have a good structure. You need to make sure that you have a good system and that you put the right people in that. Because I don't think Tom Brady would even like to be, the right tackle. You know what I mean? So I like that analogy a lot. I put in the notes, set responsibilities for everyone in the organization. And that's really important because you don't want people who, you don't want to make the pies and be the representative out on the sales floor, because what happens when the person you kind of designated to be a representative on the sales floor wants to make the pies, and then who's the boss, and then if you hire another person, who do they go to? You know what I mean? You don't want chaos in your organization. You want structure and a system and a good foundation so that if there's an issue, we know who to go to. So if, I have an issue with another employee, I know who to go to you, not to maybe Harry sometimes, but this guy's nicer. You know what I mean? Like you have to have a good foundation or else you're not going to be successful in business or in relationships or anything really.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
I think it not only helps, the leadership to manage the company, for everyone to know their position. It helps the employees and the people that are down the ladder to know, what their responsibility is and what's expected of them and stuff as well. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes people make in business is they, expect everybody to contribute at every level, at every point that's possible. And nobody ends up knowing what their job is, and you end up being, it ends up being counterproductive.
Exactly. Yeah. You want people designated for managers and people designated to do this work, do that work. And you need a chain of command, even if it's just like a small business where it's like, I'm your boss. You come to me if there's an issue. I also handle finance, this, that, and the other thing. Even if it's just that, make sure like if there's a problem, come to me. Don't go to Harry. You know what I mean? So that's great for building a foundation.
It is. If you want to, it kind of made me think of another book I've been listening to. It might be a little bit off topic, but it's called. Actually, right now I'm listening to a book called The Dichotomy of Leadership, and it was written by a couple of Navy SEAL officers that are now in the business world, and they've taken everything they learned in the SEAL world, in the military world, and they're applying it now to business and helping businesses, become successful. And they actually started off with their first book was Extreme Ownership, and that's about, taking responsibility, proper responsibility and leadership and things like that. The Economy of Leadership kind of builds on that, but one of the big themes in both of their books is talking about having your business set up in a manageable way. So in manageable teams so that you don't have one person trying to manage 50 people, you know, breaking it down to what they call fire teams of, 4 to 6 people. Each one of those groups of 4 to 6 people has, somebody who's in charge of them. And then as a group, if there's 50 people, there might be 10 leaders on top of that, and then, 2 leaders on top of that, and then it goes up to the CEO. So it actually breaks it down so that one person isn't overwhelmed trying to manage everything. Right. But at every level going down, there is some form of management and leadership. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's great because, if you go to a company like Walmart has groups of workers, like let's say cashiers, or even just cashiers, and then you have produce people, whatever it is. Then those people have leads, usually 1 or 2. And then the leads answer to the managers. The managers answer to the general manager, and the general manager answers to the regional to the I think districts or whatever, parts of the area, and then they answer to usually the vice presidents, and then him to the presidents and CEO and things like that. So it goes up the ladder. But if I have an issue, I don't know how to sell this thing, and I'm able to go to a team lead doesn't know, he goes to this guy, he goes to this guy. It almost takes the load off me. I don't have to figure it out all myself. So it makes your business better. Also, it makes you look like you know what you're doing, because people actually don't really know. They don't know what they really want. They know feelings, and they know that this, that, and the other thing. And if I go to somebody and I'm like, hey, I want to buy this. How do I, what's the price? How does it work? Things like that. And they go, oh, I don't know. Let me try to figure it out. And they don't know what they're doing. And then I'm sitting there for an hour. I'm never coming back to the business again. But if he goes, oh, I don't know, let me ask my manager. And the manager knows how to do it. There's that hierarchy, and people actually think you know what you're doing. And then they're going to come back to your business. So, moving on to the next segment, I had in the notes for things like working out. I think we're going to be going over a lot of the same things, but maybe we can share some new examples about, if you're starting a new workout regimen, or if you want to be healthier, what's a good foundation that you can set? What do you think is a good way to start setting a foundation for yourself so you can be successful in fitness and in working out and making yourself better and things like that?
I think this is one of those subjects that we have talked about quite a bit. The biggest thing for setting a proper foundation is just, that's a hard question to answer. We can go right back to, having to set the why. A lot of people talk about setting your why you want to get in shape, why you're going to do it, finding that reason for it, I think is the best first step. If it's health reasons, if you've been told that if you don't lose weight, you're going to have to, go on, medication, or you're going to have operation, or there's a fear of dying. That might be your motivation, or it might just be because you enjoy the feeling, you enjoy that adrenaline, or you want to get in shape to go to Bermuda next year, or beach
body. Yeah, I know what you mean.
You got to find that why is first good step.
Yeah, that's a great way of starting for sure, is getting your why. And I think that we're probably going to go over this a lot more when we move on to the career things and the relationship and things such as that. But you want to evaluate first. So if even in business, like we just mentioned, you want to realize where you're going to go, and then you need to make a plan of action, things like that. So understanding your why is great, and then you want to make a plan. And for most people, starting out in exercise or fitness or whatever it is, they have a plan kind of, but they don't have a system. It's just like the business, like we talked about. If you need a system. So if you're not going to be sticking to your regimen, maybe get a personal trainer, so you're reliant on that person. Maybe go buy gym clothes and set them out before you go to the gym, so you don't have to think about it. And then get a water bottle, fill it up, put it on the table right before, put your keys out, everything, so you don't actually have to think about it. When you wake up, you put your gym clothes on, you go to the gym, and someone actually tells you how to do it. That's a great foundation, because you're not thinking about it. It's not like I wake up, I kind of have things sorted out. I get my gym clothes on that I had to find, and then I go to the gym. And then the really big challenge starts, because I don't know what I'm going to do. I have to, figure out how to bench press. I have to figure out how to run on the, it's all these different things that you have to juggle,
And you forgot your water bottle.
And I forgot my water bottle, and I don't have pants on. There's so many things you have to juggle, and not to mention, like, if you in business, like we talked about, you can't juggle finance, you can't juggle, management and being the CEO, CFO, COO, president of the organization, vice president of marketing. You know what I mean? You can't do all those things at once. So with anything in life, you have to set a foundation, and workout is not an exception. Like, you should probably go into working out just the same way. Like, get a personal trainer, set everything up so it's almost automatic, so anybody could do it, and then you're really rolling. You know what I mean? Instead of just throwing things out there. Never just throw things out there. Like, if you're investing in a company, you're not just going to throw money out there. You're going to, if they don't have a good system and a good organization system, you're not going to invest your money in them, because that would be dumb, right? So why would you not set up the same system, not the same systems, but good systems for yourself, just like a company would, you know what I mean? So set up a good foundation, and that increases your chances of being successful, like, exponentially. I'd say in the hundreds of percents, you know what I mean? You're way more likely to be successful if you set up systems, because you'll stick to those systems. And if you don't do those things, and you do those things, that's the difference between success and not success. So that's my rant right there.
I agree with everything you said, and I mean, we've talked about systems and habits and stuff before. Like getting up and putting your making your bed and brushing your teeth and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that if you're doing all that stuff already, building on it isn't that bad. So I mean, like, I've heard advice, like the one book, Atomic Habits, that I was reading. He talks about habits, like he gave some examples, like this one guy, he would go home from work, and as soon as he got home from work, he would put on his workout clothes, no matter what he was doing, and he found that as soon as he put on his workout clothes, even if he went and sat on the couch, and he's debating whether to go or not, well, since he already put on his workout clothes, he's like, I might as well go.
Yeah, you're halfway.
Then he gets down there and he goes to work out, and he's like, okay, this isn't that bad, and like it was just that doing that one step, motivated him to take the next step.
Right.
And he also talks about how, just doing those steps, like you say, getting your keys ready and your water bottle and your workout clothes ready the night before, set them out, you get up in the morning and you're like, okay, this isn't so bad, and you start from there, and you just make, small steps, and, eventually, because, I mean, we're all human.
Right.
I mean, you don't have your water bottle out there in the morning. It's like, oh, where's my water bottle? I can't find my water bottle. Well, I'll pick up a water bottle after work, and I'll go tomorrow.
Right.
We're as humans, we're really good at making excuses.
Right.
And I mean, we don't need much, especially when it's something that we're having to do that stretches us, like a business or like working out or anything like that. We will look for any excuse not to do it.
Exactly. Well, I mean, also, like you said, if you can't find your water bottle and you're looking around for it, like, your brain will send off, like, I wouldn't say pain receptors, but like stop receptors. Like, you're struggling, knock it off, quit, or whatever. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to be in pain. You don't want to struggle. You don't want to do anything. So doing that stuff the night before sets you up for success, because you won't have those same receptors in your brain. It'll be like a go thing. I watched a video. Somebody talked about, like, how to motivate yourself, and motivation isn't actually like you have motivation and then you do. It's like you can do and then get motivation from that, and it's almost like a cycle. It's not necessarily a start here, go there. It's a one or the other thing. So starting something can motivate you just as much as motivating can get you started. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily a straight line. It's like a circle. You know what I mean?
It's kind of interesting the way you put that, because I mean, I can almost imagine myself, or people out there saying, well, I got to find my motivation first. It's almost, I mean, it goes back to what I was saying, finding that excuse not to do it. Like, it's almost like looking for that perfect motivation to, so that I can start, doing whatever it is I need to get done. So
exactly. And and it's not a bad thing to have those, because that's your natural instincts. Your natural instincts tell you to seek out pleasure, not pain. And that's a good thing if you're in the jungle and there's like a, some sort of wild cat or something, chasing you, like a lion or something like that. But we don't live in those situations anymore. We live in cities or towns or even just out on the prairie in a house. You know what I mean? We don't live in those same situations. So these different pain receptors and like fear receptors and things such as that, and things that tell us to run or to stop or whatever it is, they're mostly triggered by things we don't like to do, like our taxes. You know what I mean? And we shouldn't run away from things like this. We should push more into them. But I mean, if you see a bear, run away. You know what I mean? So we want to evaluate what is helpful to run away from and what is something we just need to push past. And you'll build mental toughness during that. I think anybody who is listening should go back, if you haven't, and watch our video or listen to our podcast on the power of a mindset and building a mindset and things such as that, because it'll help with a foundation, and it really integrates into a foundation. And I think everything we've talked about kind of integrates into each other. But kind of back to what I was saying.
That actually leads me to another point that we should talk about.
What?
Focus,
exactly. Yeah, no, because I just got a little off track. Yeah, for sure. Focus is very important.
I think it's one of those things that, when you get passionate about something, it's really hard to keep focused. So I mean, like when you're starting a business or starting a workout routine or new relationship or whatever it is in life, a lot of times that we lose focus, and we kind of get caught up in the moment. And I think we actually kind of talked about this earlier, where you were saying that, usually when you start a new business venture or start on a new idea, you just kind of jump in and you do everything at once, where now you're working on a new idea where you're kind of just, you're being very methodical about it and going step by step, and you're really putting a lot of thought and focus into, what, how this is going to look and how it's going to work. And you kind of, I don't know, approaching it a lot differently.
Yeah. Well, when you start a new business, especially like when I started a new business, or not even just starting a new business, but think about starting a new business, you go straight from I'm here, and then you just start thinking about I'm in a suit and tie, I'm in a big office, in a big building in New York or whatever, you know what I mean? Like you don't think about the steps it takes to get there and where you are now to, where you will be in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. You think ahead maybe 10, 20 years, or maybe even just a year if you're not being very realistic, and you think about that big office, the nice car, you know what I mean? And it's so easy because, like I said, we want to go from pain to pleasure, you know what I mean? So living in a world where we don't want to be living in a small apartment necessarily. We want to have a big house, you know what I mean? So we jump right from here to there. Like, what could this give me? We don't realize that it's a twisting, winding road, and we kind of lose focus on what we actually need to do because we're going towards what we want to do, which is have a big office. So instead of maybe going to, find a supplier for such and such product, you are going to go buy a suit, you know what I mean? Because that's the life you want, you know what I mean? So that's important to realize, is that you need to be focused on the things that will get you to where you want to go, not necessarily like give you the feelings of where you want to go, you know what I mean? So like having a cool car won't really actually make you successful, but becoming successful and then having a cool car makes you successful with a cool car, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's really important to be focused, and I think I'm probably the worst one to be preaching that because I am not focused at all ever.
It's one of those hard things, and I think that kind of goes along with being creative. People who are creative are not necessarily always focused. So I mean, it's kind of one of those things, but I mean, it's one of those things when you put the proper systems in place and the proper habits, I mean, then you can be, sometimes you can lose focus when you're in that dream state or that big picture state, and you can lose focus for a while and still be able to bring yourself back around, get back to your systems, I think it can kind of be helpful to be like that, even though you do lose focus sometimes. But as long as you have the ability to bring that back into focus.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially because like if you're gonna do a business where you have all these moving parts, it's so like you get so excited about the mission and having, like I said, the suit and the nice office, and then you bring yourself back to reality to start it. If you are going to start it, because a lot of people just go with the good picture or whatever, and they kind of just stay in that dreamland. But if you're actually going to start it, a lot of people come back and start it, and then they're like, oh, I have to do all this and then this, and it's like just a swimming image of all the things you have to do. But if you step back and focus, it's like, okay, stop. This one, do. Now this one. You know what I mean? Like, you set out your steps, and you don't think I have to do this and this and this and this and this. It's like, I have to make a business name. Once I have that, I'm going to move on to my website, and I'm going to move on to this. You know what I mean? It's not like oh my gosh, I have to figure out a business name because I already created the website, and oh my gosh, that's taken, and I got to create a logo, and it's like, oh, I got to hire somebody to do this, and it's like, oh, I don't have any money. You know what I mean? So, it takes a lot of focus. It takes a lot of focus to create a business, is what I'm trying to say. So, and I'm gonna try not to talk too much because I'm losing focus. Lesson learned.
Before you lose focus too much, I'm going to try and bring your focus back, and I think I know how. Okay. All right. We'll talk about relationships.
All right.
I think you're pretty fortunate. I mean, you and your fiance have a pretty healthy relationship. And we kind of touched on that a little bit at the beginning of this podcast, that we were actually going to bring it around to a relationship. So why don't you just kind of touch on that a little bit?
So I think relationships are probably the most important part of your life. There was a study. I'm going to go off track a little bit, but I'll bring it back. I won't lose too much focus. Okay. So anyway, there's a study. It was a Harvard study, and they followed people for like 74 years or something like that. And what makes people happy, live longer, all this stuff. It was actually relationships. If you have good relationships with your spouse, with your parents, with your friends, with community, then you're going to live a long and happy life. And it's not like if I have multiple friends. If I have a lot of friends and a little bit of friends, it makes no difference. It's the quality of the relationships. So, and to bring it back to what I was saying, to what we're talking about here, the foundations of those relationships are based on you and that other person. So if you find a person that you really click with, that's great. And then you can start building the foundation. For me and my fiance, it ended up, we are still together, of course, but we weren't always as good as we are now. We used to fight a lot. We used to, do all this stuff, but we ended up creating a foundation to where I was actually holding things in a lot. Like if I got mad, I would hold it in. I just wouldn't talk. I'd probably just watch TV. And if she was mad, she actually did talk, but it was more of a yell. So, that didn't really help. So what we did was we created a system where if we're mad at each other, we talk it out. Whoever's mad at whoever. So if I'm mad at my fiance, I sit her down and I talk. And I don't yell. I don't get mad. I don't get angry. I talk. If she's mad, same thing. So, that's a great system for when you're mad. And I think in the beginning stages of a relationship, that's the biggest thing is you want the fights, because fights happen all the time, especially if you move in with each other. Big fights, because there's hair all over the sink. Women shed a lot. And, of course, I put dishes all over. So there's an issue there. So, having communication is great, but you have to set the foundation for that, because communication is such a broad, topic. You know what I mean? You don't go into the nuances of, if I'm mad at you, we sit down. If you were mad at me, we sit down, we talk about it. And it's not me and you against each other. It's me and you against a problem. You know what I mean? So that's a big part of building a foundation, is realizing that. And then beyond that, of course, is just enacting the systems and things such as that.
But it's one of those tough things with a new relationship, trying to get those systems into place. And, I think that, if a person is already building those kind of systems, in their business and their personal life and, things like that, it probably help a lot in relationships as well. Because, man, when you first get into a relationship and you got all those emotions and, you're enamored with this other person and, there's just all these different things going on, it's really hard to get those systems into place. Those, like you say, at first it didn't work out very well. You guys didn't know how to communicate, but eventually you got to that point. But how much further do you think you guys would have been ahead if you would have, been this person that you are today back then?
See, I don't know. It's hard to look back, because hindsight's 2020, but of course, you know, you get into things like the butterfly effect. If you change something, something's going to be different. So I just think too much, and I don't know if I can, you know, say whether or not it would be better or not. But I would say for sure we'd have less fights. But those fights honestly probably brought us closer together. We're best friends, so I couldn't say if it would or wouldn't. But for sure less fights. So maybe, possibly, but I don't know if fighting was the thing that brought us closer together. And I think it might have been, to be honest with you, because after the fights, we're back to being best friends. You know what I mean? We go out on a date and, you know, just be best friends again. But if, you know, we didn't have that fight, we'd just be normal. So maybe the relationship would have been boring. I don't know. Having the fiery, like, you know, first few months of the relationship where it's like, you want to be around that person, and then you get pissed off, and then you fight, and then you make up, and it's like so intense at first. So I don't know, but this is getting way off rails.
I don't think it is. I mean, it's just, there's just so many different ways to look at it, and so many different perspectives and stuff. So
yeah,
and you know, a lot of times, sometimes when you just go off the rails, you kind of come up with some new insights and
right. Yeah, I mean, well, I guess we can go back and kind of label it too. Like, you want to set foundations in communication, you know, in personal space too. You want to set those foundations. For me, I'm lucky because me and her don't really have that. We're both very clingy, and that's great because I'm clingy in a way that's good for her, and she's clingy in a way that's good for me. I've dated girls that I have been clingy, and it didn't work out because they're clingy in a different way. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I miss you," and I'm like, "Okay, shut up." And you know, me and her, we're in a relationship that's like, if we're away from each other, we're not like, "Oh, I miss you." It's like, "Oh, that was a nice break. How are you?" And then we, you know, get back into our clingy relationship, watch some TV. You know, we're basically with each other all the time. But I know people that want to be like, they're in a relationship, but they need time alone, like almost all the time. Not all the time, but like they need to go for a walk, need to watch TV alone. You know, they need to live alone until they're married. You know what I mean? So setting those foundations in personal space and things like that is important too. So personal space, communication, and then whatever else you can think of, like you know, if someone's sensitive about a topic, don't talk about that. I guess that's communication too.
Yeah.
But
and I think if you take everything that you just talked about there, I mean, everything you just said could be applied in a business sense. I mean, making sure that you have boundaries set and personal space, and making sure that you know how to communicate, you know, properly between, you know, business partners and stuff like that. Because if you don't know how to communicate, that's where a lot of the chaos comes from, right?
yeah.
So.
And I mean, also, if you're bringing in a new employee and you want to teach them how to make the pies you make, you would have a specific, you want to be able to communicate specific instructions and like how to do it so that you have quality in your brand. You know what I mean? So you want to make sure that, let's say like you're going to create instructions for a pie. You wouldn't say, hey, you wouldn't say get all the ingredients for the pie and then have different instructions for the ingredients and different reasons why you have those ingredients. You would have specific instructions like get salt, butter, this, that, and the other thing, and assemble it this way. You wouldn't have get the ingredients and then have a different thing for the ingredients and then say assemble. You know what I mean? And then have a different thing for assemble. So you would probably combine those and have the best system to make the best pie because that's your quality. You know what I mean? So bringing in a new employee, you wouldn't be like, do this. You would show them how to do it in specific steps according to your quality. You know what I mean? Well, where did I go with that? That was weird.
Might have lost focus just a little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah. I kind of go off the rails a little bit. But yeah. So, I mean, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think as we kind of went through the different life aspects and stuff there, that it kind of just, I mean, all the same concepts, I think all the same concepts can apply through every aspect of your life, whether that's business or career, school, you know, relationships, you know, just, it's a matter of getting those right systems in place and, you know, and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think you lost focus there.
I think I did.
And that's the main thing. Don't lose focus, because we are not prime examples of that. I don't think we got enough sleep last night. But you know what?
But you know what? We're doing this,
Yeah.
and we're making it happen.
Yeah, we're making it happen, taking it one step at a time. Yeah.
Good editing software.
Yeah, and I don't even know. I don't think we'll have to edit it because I don't think we'll have to edit it because you know what? This ties into the same thing. Just be focused. You know what I mean?
But we're not being examples of being focused.
That's the reason. That's the exact example we're trying to
teaching them how to do stuff.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, teach them how to focus.
All right.
Because we're usually focused, but we
Okay.
didn't get enough sleep. So get enough sleep.
All right.
Public service
Get
announcement.
enough sleep. Anyway, guys, I think that's going to about wrap it up for the day. I hope you enjoyed the show.
Down below are our social media, and if you want to leave a comment and subscribe, we'd appreciate it. Stay focused, and if you want to leave a like, we'd also appreciate that as well.
Make sure to hit that bell notification so you're notified when we upload new videos.
Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Stay focused.
Thanks for watching.